Roger, Roger. Sounds really good. That's your $20 microphone?
It sure is. And this is a microphone. My first, as I was mentioning last week when we spoke, first in my ground. But right here it sounds good, right?
Roger. Well, I think you got a pretty good deal there. I do think you got a real good deal because it sounds good. The band just did something there. The noise level fell off quite a bit. That unnerves me when the noise level drops down. I think I've got a relay that's not working right, Roger.
Yeah, exactly. I know just what you mean. Start looking around and saying, did the tuner come unplugged or what happened? But no, it didn't happen here, so it must be a local phenomenon there.
Roger that. Now, Ken, maybe you set module level. It looked really peaky, so maybe can you crank in a little gain? Let's see where it goes.
IC 7300. I wanted to ask you about what you're doing there. You've got, I guess, an equalizer and a mixer. I guess the equalizer is for transmit and the mixer is on receive. But fill me in a little bit about how that all works, because this is all new to me. Go ahead.
Roger. I was going to work on your module. I thought maybe we could work on your module there for a minute. My audio is just a condenser mic, a homebrew condenser mic, into an ART preamp. Brings it up to a line level. Just it has somewhat of a limiting capability, but I'm just running the Phantom mic voltage on it, and no limiting, just preamp into a third octave equalizer, which is nothing more than a 10-band equalizer, and then up to the tabletop for a radio selector, 6-position rotary switch for the radio select, and a toggle on, toggle off, and then into the Yaesu 990. It's kind of straightforward there. I did have a revelation about my antenna. I was just calling it an inverted V, but the way I tune it, with working the SWR on the ground side and working the frequency back on the high side, it winds up that there's about 15 to 20% more string on the high side than on the low side. So then somebody starts talking about a Wyndham. So I don't know, but it does turn out to be an off-center fed dipole with about 15 to 20% more string on the high side than on the low side. But the SWR is 1.01 to 1, and it's on frequency. Roger.
KC9 Victor contact.
All the power is going out through the antenna, which is exactly what you want. I think a lot of people, some new hams or people that haven't spent any time looking at the technology, think that as long as you have an antenna tuner and you can satisfy your transmitter that the SWR is low, then you think all that power is going out and getting radiated. But of course, that's definitely not the case, because you could have a significant mismatch still between the tuner and the antenna side, even though the radio is happy. Go ahead.
Roger. We've got another station in there. Other station, go ahead.
KC9 Victor, got a couple of questions for you when you're ready. Go ahead. This is November India 8 Alpha.
India 8 Alpha. Love the call. Go ahead real quick with your question, sir.
You said you had background noise come up. Thought maybe it was a relay. What kind of a transceiver do you have, sir?
Oh, no. I just we're making a joke. When things get quiet, you start looking around for faulty relays. It's kind of an inside joke, but this is an older Yaesu 990, Roger. But the relay I was talking about was actually in the SB220 antenna shift relay, Roger.
Okay, well, I've got a 7300 ICOM doing exactly that. There's times when there's no background noise and times when there is. And the other question is, that phantom voltage that's on your condenser microphone, does that come out of the equalizer that you're using or is that filtered out there somewhere in your EQ or whatever it is you have? Go ahead.
Are you talking about the phantom power supply for the condenser mic?
Yes, sir. Do Do they filter that out before they hit the transceiver?
Oh yeah. I'm using an ART preamp. You might look it up, ART preamp. It's like a $50 preamp that furnishes the 48 volts for the my homebrew condenser microphone, and it is that 48 volts is lost immediately in the processing back into the electronics of the preamp. It never makes it through the first stage of the preamp, Roger.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking with mine. I got a Behringer MC2200 coming, and nobody can tell me whether that standard voltage is filtered out at the output, including the special cable I've got for the input to the ICOM 7300. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. There is no voltage on the output other than audio voltage. All that 48 volts is filtered out even before it goes into the first stage of the preamp. So you got no problems there. Now you might, depending on your radio, you might have DC coming off the radio if the mic you're using, or the stock mic, is a condenser microphone. They would furnish some voltage for that. It's a real light voltage. You can use it or lose it, whichever, you know.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, thank you very much, sir. I'll let you get back to your QSO. By the way, you're 5'9" here in Columbia, South Carolina. 73, and God bless, sir.
Roger, sir. The three's to you anytime. And this is KC9VKV. And let's see here, Ken, you still copying?
Yeah, I'm copying you fine, Jim. I didn't hear the other station, which is unfortunate because I'm interested also in hearing a little bit more about your preamp and equalizer settings. When you say ART, is that ART or ARCH? ART, Alpha Romeo Tango, or Alpha Romeo Hotel?
It's Alpha Romeo Tango. ART, Associated Research something, I don't know. But ART is the manufacturer of the little preamp. It's a little 4.5 by 4.5 by 1.5 inch steel box. Now, I think preamps, it's important for preamps to be in steel cases, because if you're dealing with RF, like a kilowatt in my case, you want a little shielding to go on at that preamp, because you're talking at about a minus 50 dB input to the that preamp, and so if you've got RF floating around in the room, which you will have if you're running a kilowatt, then you want to be particularly concerned about that RF getting into the AF, and it will get into it at the lowest stage and be amplified and create some turmoil there. So what I do is, it's got a steel case, so I be sure I ground the steel case. Now, grounding is a whole nother deal, because, excuse me, if you just have one ground, and you're thinking about grounding your mic preamp to the same ground that you're running on your power amp, you maybe want to think again on that deal, because, you have a lot of RF in that ground system trying to go to ground. But there's enough left over that if you connect a mic preamp ground to it, that's going to take a diversion through your preamp. So what I've done here is I'm running 3 separate grounds. It didn't make much sense for me to hook my power amp ground to my preamp ground, so I'm running a separate a ground system for the power amp and all that stuff, the antenna switches and all that stuff. And then for the actual other ground, I'm running 2 grounds that are tied together with and then cables coming back, and I'm using like RG8 as a ground cable, because basically I'm doing an RF to ground connection, and that RF is traveling on the outside of the skin of the wire, and to an RF ground, RG8 looks like about a 1/2 inch a ground cable, so it doesn't have to carry billions of amps, and I just leave it in its round form. I do, peel back the insulation at the ends, peel it back, and take the center conductor, lose the insulation on it, peel it back, and then put my ground clip, on onto the whole thing and then come inside. And then instead of, a lot of folks use these long ground terminals, like 4-foot ground copper piece in the back, and all these things are tied to it. Well, the whole idea is to get everything to the same ground potential. And while this copper pipe or whatever it is pretty good, I decided that I would join everything at the same point. So I use what's called a split bolt. I don't know if you know what a split bolt is, but it's the kind of a bolt that power transformers use to get the power in and out of the power pot. And it's a split, and you put the wires in there, and then it has a big nut, and it's got the bolt is and you put the nut on there and screw it up. And so I've got all of my grounds coming together at absolutely the same place. They're not 3 foot apart, or one at one end and one at the other end. The ground is a true spider ground. Roger?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I know what a split bolt is. Sounds like a very good system to use. Now, I'm looking, while you were talking, I Googled ART preamp, and it looks like the little ones that you're talking about are kind of like phono preamps, phono turntable preamps, like from the old days when you had phono cartridges. Go ahead.
No, not the MP Studio. The MP Studio has XLR mic connections in and out, plus a 1/4 inch in and out, depending on what you need, But that is really an excellent preamp. The noise is unbelievably down, tremendously far down. But one of the main advantages of that particular preamp is that they use a tube. A 12AX7. Can you imagine that? A 12AX7 in a solid-state device. And they use this tube to add warmth to the audio passing through the device. Roger?
Mr. Mahler, Tube MC, is that the one you're talking about?
The MP Studio, $48 at from ART. Roger?
Okay, that's not the one that came up on Google, on Amazon, but I'm sure I can find it. Now, you use that primarily to get the phantom voltage, or do you actually need the amplification, right?
Oh, that is the preamp. That is the audio. I mean, that's the beautiful part about it. It furnishes the 48 volts to the mic, and that comes out at line level almost, perfect to go into my thank you, computer. Go into my equalizer, and then so once out of the preamp, we're at line level. Roger?
Okay, so you go into the equalizer. What equalizer is that? How does that work? And how does that go from there into eventually into the transmitter? I assume if it's at line level, you're not using the mic input, but the line input, right?
No, I'm using the mic input for the ART preamp. I'm coming in with my mic into the XLR input of the ART preamp, and then I'm using the 1/4 inch out of the preamp at line level, leaving the preamp. Roger?
No, I meant as far as the, I think you said you're running a Yaesu. As far as that's concerned, you must be using the line input. Go ahead.
Negative. I use a variable T-pad coming into it. You're dealing with line level into mic level, okay? So, and the thing is that a lot of these radios are very ticklish about the front end. So usually, even you can take the high side of the mic and ground it to its own ground in the mic, and it will hum. You will get a ground loop there. So most of the time, I've found it's a lot cleaner to what's called bridge into the audio input of the radio mic input. So I will come with maybe a 10K ohm out of the radio, a 10K ohm, and I will come out a 10K ohm off of my line level audio, and then I'll tie those two together, and then I will put a resistor to ground between those two. So I'm going, it's a 10K ohm bridge into the radio, a 10K ohm bridge from the the equalizer, and then a resistor between those to ground that I can get the exact level. Now, what you can do if you wanted to would be to use a pot. Some of the times I use a pot, sometimes I just use fixed. It all depends. But on a pot, what you would do, you would use like a 10K ohm pot, and you would run ground on one side, and you would bridge on the far lug the audio from the equalizer, and then the center wiper arm would be from your radio, and then you can use the pot to bring your level. The idea is if the center conductor were turned way down towards the ground side, you would still, even all the way down to the ground, you would still be bridging 10K ohms. Roger?
Yeah, very good. It makes a lot of sense. Now, what is the nature of the equalizer you use, and how do you adjust that? Do you use a scope to adjust equal frequencies? Go ahead.
Yeah, we could go into that. Hang on just a minute. Let me see your audio. That's what I'd be curious right now. Come up on your mic and let me. You're banging up there, but you're kind of peaky. In other words, I think if you had a little more gain, you would get a whole lot louder.
Okay, well, let's see how that works. I did get a report earlier that when I got close to it, it was muddy. Trying to keep away from it a little bit, about 6 inches or so. This is 45% mic gain. There's 55. It doesn't. I don't seem to be hitting the ALC at all. Let me try a little more. There's 60% on the mic. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead.
Yes, you're coming up nicely. Now, you have an ALC meter on that radio?
Well, yeah, it's just a bar graph type of ALC meter. It's still well below half, even on the peaks, right?
Roger, turn on up. your volume is coming up leaps and bounds. Come on up and we'll hit slight distortion and back off just a tad. But Katie, bar the door until we hear any distortion. Roger?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't want that. So this is 70% on the mic gain. I've got about 20% or 2% of the 20% of the 100% compression that's available to me. And again, we're still about 6 inches from the mic. So 70% seems like a lot to me, but if it's not flattering, I guess it's okay. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Go on up a little bit more. Let's see.
KF4OJA standing by.
Roger, sir. Stand by. Go ahead, Ken, with your audio.
Okay, this is 75%. So I can't really, I'm a little too strong on my SDR, but it still looks like it's not more than 2.8 3 KC at the maximum. Go ahead and let's bring the other station in too. We may need a call.
Roger, other station. Go ahead.
Kilo Fox 4, Oscar Juliet Alpha, been listening. I agree with you. The audio has doubled, and it's nice and clean here in the Panhandle of Florida. KF4OJA, bye.
What's the name down in Florida?
What town? Defuniak Springs, 30 miles north of the Gulf, 80 miles east of Pensacola.
Roger, what's the name?
My name is Richard.
Roger, Richard, what kind of signal are we doing down there? I have got this saying that that we are from Montreal to Miami. Do you think we'll be reaching Miami?
Well, I'm about, as the crow flies, probably 600 miles. But with my notch filter off, you're about 5 or 10 over 9. With it on, you're a solid S9, over.
Roger that. Roger that. Well, maybe we might make it down to Miami after all.
Yes, sir. Carry on with the other fella. You're doing good with him because he is a much more pleasing audio. I use a hand mic here, and it's just about a ½ inch from my mouth, but this is an old ICOM 735, and anyway, it seems to do pretty good. but nonetheless, the other station's sounding really, really good here now, and the audio doubled at least and nice and clear. Over.
Roger, Roger, Rick. Well, you've got your audio kind of worked out there, man. It sounds loud, and the response, tailored response is nice too. So 3 is that a way, you know, if you get a chance to jump back in.
Yes, sir. I'm sitting here listening.
Roger, Roger. Ken, go ahead.
Okay, very good. I did kick compression up 110. So I don't know what that did to it. I don't know how this mic is going to react to some compression. Thank you very much, Richard, for your comments. It's great that you're hearing me better, and I just want to make sure it's nice and clean, because the last thing I want is to be stepping on anybody on the sidewalk.
Roger, Roger there, Ken. Okay, we about got your peaks straightened out, but you're very peaky. So let's look at that compressor. Is it in service at all now?
Yeah, I've got 30% compression. Let's see here, I can turn it off. That's with no compression. So I wonder if that's any better, if that speeds it out of there.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Ken. Take the compressor and run it up about halfway. Run your compression about half the capability. Let's see what happens.
Roger. That's about 50% compression. Still, the ALC.
Don't worry about the ALC or any of the other levels. Just look at compression right now.
Yeah, very good. For some reason, the ALC with this compression is not kicking up at all. So this is 75% gain on the mic and 50% of compression. Go ahead.
I take your compression. Obviously, do you have a match switch on that microphone?
Negative. For $20, you don't get a switch. Go ahead.
All right. Take that compressor up to 75%.
That's 80. You know, those are the conditions introduced. So this is 8 out of 10. Right?
And talk right into your microphone.
All right. This is still about 6 inches away, but directly in front of us. Right?
Roger, you've hit your frequency. You're low on frequency. We're at 7189.
Actually, I was high. I have a bad habit. Maybe it's just the way this rig is set up. When you go to hit the adjustments for mic gain or any of that, it's pretty close to the tuning, but not. On your next transmission, I'll lock the frequency. Go ahead.
Okay. So what I'm seeing, I'm looking at your audio on a VU meter, and I'm seeing it come up on peaks, but by and large stay down very low until occasionally it hits a peak. So obviously we need some more compression to keep your average percentage of modulation a lot higher, Roger. So take your compressor and take it all the way up, and let's see what happens.
All right, very good. This is full compression. Never have run like that. But it's definitely flattening it out because the ALC is not moving at all. So it's setting a level and holding it, looks like. Go ahead.
Roger, it doesn't seem to be, are you sure the compressor's in line? I mean, it doesn't seem to be compressing it very much. The volume's coming up, but the compression, the fatness of it is not happening.
Stand by. I think you're right. I don't have it on. Well, I'm sure that's going to make a big difference now that it's on and up full. Go ahead.
Oh, Jesus, Ken. It's like coming through 3 rooms to my room, Roger.
Yeah, stand by. Now we'll go back to where it's supposed to be.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Ken, don't change a thing. Let me hear you just the way it was, Roger.
You doubled.
Ken, do not do anything. Do not do anything. Leave it like it was, and let me listen to you for a little bit.
Okay, we'll go back up to full compression. So this is full compression, 75% mic gain. I should be Very loud, but not that clean at this kind of setting. Go ahead.
You're absolutely clean and loud. You're about 4 to 5 times, maybe 6 times louder than when we started.
I agree. It's beautiful too. Nice and clean and loud. Twice as loud on me.
I think Rick had the story. Rick, tell him what it was.
At least twice as loud and good signal, of course, but as clean as can be. I don't have any equipment except, you know, what I'm listening with my ear, but I'm going to tell you, it's a Ken or Tim, whichever. Leave it right there, buddy. Put some super glue on it. Contact.
Well, thank you, Richard. I can't believe that this 100% compression sounds good, but I have to take both your words for it.
Oh, it really sounds
very,
good.
Very good. Richard, I didn't get your call. I have K4 OJR, but that can't be right because it doesn't come up.
No, that's not right. And by the way, with my notch filter on, which compresses my incoming signal quite a bit, you're now 10/9. The call is Kilo Foxtrot 4 Orange Juice Agent OJA. Name's Richard. I am in DeTenente, Springs, Florida. Over.
Yeah, very good, Richard. I had the last letter wrong. Thank you very much. KF4OJA with KC9VKV. This is K2KXK, Central North Carolina. Very good on being up in the Panhandle. I kind of surrounded you there for a while. I lived in Mobile for several years, and then I lived in a town called Punta Gorda, which is on Charlotte Harbor, about 50 miles south of Tampa. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I lived in St. Petersburg for 10 years. I was raised in Hollywood, Florida. Lived in Orlando briefly, opened up a branch for a company there, and then moved in 73 to Tallahassee. No, excuse me. Moved up here to Definiak in 73. 10 years later, moved back to Tallahassee over there. Still got a home there. And recently, due to the fact I'm 75, my wife's got health issues, I said, to heck with Tallahassee, I'm going to sell the house. Don't need it, don't want it. And my grandchildren are there, but they don't, you know, anyway, it's a long story. Nonetheless, I got a nice little brick house on a dead-end street here, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, with a barbecue pit outside, and a quarter of an acre, beautiful green grass, birds, hummingbirds, squirrels, everything that I want right here, KF4 OJA.
Yeah, very good. Sounds like the good life for sure. Well, when we get to that age, we deserve it. That's the way I feel. I'm not quite there yet, but been retired for about 10 years. Let's kick it back up to our friends up in the northwest of both of us, or west of you, in any case, northwest of you, west of me. Back up to you, Jim. KC9VKV in the group, K2KXK.
Roger. Now, Ken, listen to me closely. Do not change anything except when we're talking, okay? Keep everything exactly the way it is. Now, come back to me and speak and talk a little bit and look at your ALC and see where your ALC is reading now.
Okay, very good. Actually, the ALC is peaking up to full, which obviously the book says you certainly don't want to do. So it's getting up there. Go ahead.
Roger, well, disregard the book. I mean, you know, as long as you're not camping out, pegged out, you know, everything is copacetic there. So you are reaching kind of book max level on your ALC. Is that a Roger?
Sorry, I missed that last question because the band just faded out on us. Go ahead.
Roger. Well, that was a one-way fade, Ken, because you're still blowing my head off here. But I'm saying your ALC is showing maximum deflection, or you're hitting up there where maximum deflection would be. Roger.
Yeah. Again, I missed part of it, but yes, the ALC is showing maximum deflection on peak. Go ahead.
Roger, Roger. I would run it just like that. Now, if you did anything, I would not change the compression. I would back off, but I don't want you to because you're sounding just beautiful. I would just run it like that. you know, but do not change your compression. Your compression is perfect right now. Take a notepad and write down everything relating to the setup of the compressor, so you can you won't lose that, because your compressor is working just perfectly. It's taking your peaky modulation, it's adding a lot more body to it, so your average percentage of peak modulation is about 20 times more than what it was. Obviously, average percent of peak modulation, you want that the highest, and that just gives you such a fat signal.
Yeah, very good. I never would have expected to be running with 100% compression. But you're the engineer, not me, or you're the broadcast expert. Now, as far as equalization, on this rig, I've only got two frequencies, two channels. They call it bass and treble. And I've got the bass turned down to -3 out of a +5 to -5. And the treble turned up +3. Do you think I should try playing with those? Go ahead.
Oh man, a perfect double. Absolute perfect double. Ken, I think you were saying something about the EQ?
Yes. Did I double with Richard or with you? Go ahead.
With Richard. To the EQ. What do you got on the EQ?
Okay, it has two channels, so to speak, bass and treble, and it goes for each of them from +5 to -5. That's the scale. On the bass, I've got -3, so it was 0 to start. It's now -3, and on the treble, I have +3. So from 0 to +3. Go ahead.
Right. Well, I think you're really close there. If you wanted to, what's the maximum capability on the top end EQ?
+5. It's at +3 now. Go ahead.
Just for kicks, take it up to +5, and let's talk that way for a minute.
All right. It's now +5 on the high end, and -3 on the low end. Now, I guess this is where an external equalizer would really earn its pay. Go ahead.
I don't know, man. I wouldn't change it. I would run it just exactly like that. What it did, that a little bit more on the top end just gave you a little edge in the syllabic range. And if you don't have that, syllabics is S's and stuff that makes words being able to hear them clearly. And that's what that did, and just put a nice little edge on the upper side to help in intelligibility. So talk some more. Let me hear it.
Okay. Well, this is the +5 on the treble, -3 on the bass, and of course you've got a 10-channel equalizer, so you can make really fine adjustments to trim it to your voice. I was kind of asking about that a little earlier. The only other adjustments I think I've got that may be applicable here is what ICOM calls TBW, or transmit bandwidth. It's got 3 settings which are customizable. For sideband, obviously you want the widest one, so the cutoffs are 100 on the low side and 2900 on the high side, and then the other presets which can be adjusted are 300 to 2700, and then 500 to 2500, which I guess you kind of use if you were contesting or working DX. Back to you, Jim. KC9VKV with KF4OJA. This is K2KXK.
Roger, Ken. I would leave it exactly like it is. Again, make notes. Make notes of everything, and your friends and neighbors won't even know you anymore. They'll be saying, "Who is that loud guy?" You're not that. I mean, you're loud, but everything is clean as a tack.
Very good. Richard, what do you think about this setting? KF4OJA, K2KXK in the group.
Very good. Either one is very nice. This one is a little tad sharper, like June. Forgot anyway. Yeah, it might be a tad sharper, but either one is beautiful. And what I was saying before when I doubled is When these guys come in, some of these wannabes come in and start telling you, you need to do this and need to do that. I don't like this, I don't like that. I don't know if you know Italian, but in Italian, my wife's full-blooded, so it's fatta nella bella camminare. That means take a nice walk for yourself.
Very good. Well, yeah, I certainly don't need that, but I certainly do need advice from people that have really experimented and made a career out of this, like Jim. I've been to his website and talked to him before. This is not our first QSO, so I know he's the real deal. So, Jim, I'm going to do exactly what you're telling me. I'm going to leave it like it is, and we'll just take it from here. Really happy that this is all working out, and I did take your advice the first time we spoke, and I did write down all the settings that I had for the hand mic, and of course I actually, because I'm a geek, I made a spreadsheet for it so that I could, as I use different mics, record each different set of settings for each mic, and then later be able to go back to it. Go ahead.
Roger, Ken. Well, I wouldn't go anywhere without that mic. I would run that mic till it rusted out. I mean, there's no need for any other mic. That mic is absolutely perfect right there, and your whole system is. Incidentally, I've been rolling audio on the QSO there, and so I will post this again, and you will see what drastically increases you have made, Roger.
That'll be fantastic. I'll tell you what, it really is gratifying to be able to do that with virtually no investment. And I could spend my money. There's plenty of places to spend it. And if I needed a high-end microphone to sound good, I'd probably eventually invest in one. But I can take that $300 and buy a lot of other gear. Go ahead.
KK4UGJ.
Go ahead, station.
Hi, Farmers. This is Butch up here in King, North Carolina. I just wanted to jump in for a second. I've been listening to y'all chatting there a little bit, and just wanted to get back with the gentleman there adjusting his radio. This is a confirmation of what you were telling him. His voice quality is extremely good over here on my station.
Very good. Did you say King, North Carolina? Go ahead.
Yeah, K-I-N-G, King, North Carolina, about 20 miles south of the Virginia line, and just a little bit west of the center of the state.
Yeah, well, we're in TOBACCOVILLE. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're neighbors then.
For sure. In fact, I just made the acquaintance of another King resident that you probably know. I'm kind of new back on the bands after many years of not being active, but in fact, we were talking to him on 2 meters earlier, Cliff, AC2TT. Do you know Cliff? Go ahead.
No, I haven't talked to that gentleman. I stay up on 440 from time to time, but most of the time I'm down on 80 meters.
Very good. Can I get the call again? I missed it. This is K2KXK in the group.
It's Kilo 4, Uniform Golf Juliet, KK4UGJ.
Very good. And the name?
My first name is Peach, like the fruit. Most everybody that knows me just calls me Butch.
Did you say Peach? Go ahead.
Affirmative.
You're not a member of the Rams RC Club, are you?
Yeah.
This is Ken, the treasurer. So, very good. We belong to two hobbies together. I got to turn this HT down. Oh, that wasn't the HT. It was my phone message machine. I have too much technology here. Very good, Peach. We know who you are. And I remember when you joined the club. I'm the treasurer, so you send all your dues to me and get the email from me. Gentlemen, I'm going to go back down to Florida and pass it on to Richard. KF4OJA in the group. And Peach, thank you very much for the confirming audio comments. This is K2KXK. Everybody here in Peach or Butch, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I'm hearing Butch very well here in the panhandle of Florida. I let you fellas go at it. I'm going to sit here and listen. So I appreciate being able to be involved. And Jim is certainly the man because he got you straight. All I got is a hand mic and an old radio, but I think God gave me a pretty good voice for radio. So I've been told anyway. So that's all I can go with. I'm working a double bazooka from the 735 into AL, what the hell is AL-80B. Had 1,000 watts out into a double bazooka, over.
Yeah, Richard, he gave you the voice, he gave you the microphone, and he gave you the radio and the conditions. You are, beautiful signal up here towards Louisville.
Very good radio. Y'all carry on. Best 7-3 from Richard, KF4, OJA.
Rich, let me jump in right quick, too, and I'm gonna go ahead and probably move on back down to 80 meters. I was just scanning through to see what was going on 40 today, and I'm glad I had a chance to stop by. And like I said, all of you guys sound really good on my setup over here. So this is a multi-band inverted V hanging about 60 feet up out of a tree, and I'm running the TS2000 and AL80B right now at about 500 watts. But anyway, that's enough about me. I appreciate you letting me jump in right quick, and thoroughly enjoyed the little short QSOs. Y'all carry on and enjoy that radio, man. It sounds terrific. KK4 is UTJ. I'll be clear.
Okay, Butch. Well, thank you very much, and thanks for jumping in and helping me confirm these settings. And we will look for you at the field. Have fun back on 80 meters, and we'll probably catch you there. Back out to you, Jim. KC9. Whoops. I got lost. VKV from K2KXK.
Roger, Ken. Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor. Yeah, I think you got your radio under control. I would, if you ever came down on anything, I would leave the compressor exactly the way it is, and maybe back off one click on your audio mic input level. Leave the compressor just like it is. Back down one click on your input to your radio. I wouldn't do that. I mean, it's just perfect, you know. But if you had to do something, that's what I would do. Just leave the compressor like it is and come down on the input. But always, use your ALC as a guide, Roger.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, well, it would be tough to use the ALC as a guide here because it's pretty much maxed out at peaks. But like you said, you can forget the book. A lot of people say not to run it over half, and of course the book says that, but it's apparently evidence to the contrary. Go ahead.
Oh, Roger, yeah. Well, my motto is shake it till it bleeds, or distorts, whichever comes first. You know, and you're well under distortion. That's the thing. See, your compressor is fattening your signal up, so your peaks are not coming from zero up to, from low up to the max out. Your peaks are staying within a prescribed area there, so it's easier on the radio to regulate all that stuff. What happens is when you're not compressed, your stuff is, each word is coming from zero up to, up to 100%, and ballistics wise, it has a tendency to overshoot the top end mark, but when you compress, you're keeping all that stuff right there in the middle of the meter, and so it's a lot easier on actually the equipment to run like that, Roger.
Yeah, very good. Well, it certainly makes sense. I've heard some signals with a lot of compression that sound kind of like they're squashed because it is, I guess, elevating the ends of the audio spectrum to meet the middle. Go ahead.
Roger. Well, the nature of a compressor is to squash, but some compressors do it better than others, and some people have it adjusted better than others. And I think yours is doing a great job. I can hear it working, but it's very transparent. So, coming from broadcast 50 years of broadcasting, I know the difference. I don't know, between a limiter and a compressor. Now, a compressor is, it is good, but I'd rather, if I had my druthers, use a limiter, because a limiter takes that fatness off the top of the signal. A limiter only sits there right at the peak of the word, right at the peak of the modulation, and limits it just a couple of dB or 3 to keep it exactly where it needs to be to go in the radio. It's a very quick device, and you can't even hear it working. It's so fast. It limits, and you only run it like 2 or 3 dB. But if you look at the VU meter, that's probably 40% or 30% modulation. Let me look here real quick. 2 dB is 20%. So, and you're talking about a 20% fattening that you can't even hear with a limiter. Of course, limiters cost a lot more than compressors, Roger.
I'm sure that's why you don't find them in entry-level radios like the IC7300. So do you have any, what do you have? Do you have any compression or limiting, or how do you run your audio? Go ahead.
Right now, I'm not running any limiting. Well, I am running some ALC limiting, but I'm not running much. I don't think I need it. I think I'm sitting here looking at my, my audio on a VU meter, and it is pretty much at the top and stays at the top. It doesn't drop down. So, it's amazing. I am my own limiter. I've been looking at VU meters for over 50 years, and I can tell what's going to happen to the peak of a signal coming off of zero rest towards the peak level. I can tell where it's going just by how fast it's moving, Roger.
Yeah, very good. Well, there's no substitute for that level of experience, that's for sure. So now tell me about the equalizer, why you use it and how it works and which one you're using, and how you set it, all of those 10 channels, how you know which band you want to set where. Go ahead.
All right, you're running a PAN adapter, is that a Roger?
Yeah, right. I'm running software PAN adapter to an SDR RSP1A using SDR console at the moment. Go ahead.
Okay. The main thing about an equalizer, the way I look at it, is to be able to shape what your signal is, and what you want. And I think I just did a dissertation on setting modulation and EQ. It should be in that around Art Bell, and it says setting modulation and EQ. But essentially what it is you want it to be you, and not muddy, and not tinny, but you with an edge. And that's what I've been looking for, and that's the way I've set up the EQ to keep it not muddy and not tinny, but kind of balanced, and so it's you with an edge. That's the saying, Roger.
Okay, very good. So, not having played with equalizers very much, if you have a 10-channel equalizer, does that mean that the frequencies or the channels are equally spaced apart across the spectrum? Go ahead.
Well, a 10-band equalizer is a third octave equalizer. So you're doing 10 bands across the audio spectrum, and so you get to the low end, and you can just say with 10 bands you get maybe you start at 50 cycles, and you just roll out 50. You hit 100, you roll out 100, and you're sitting there. Okay, now at 250, and maybe you roll 250 about halfway down, leave everything as it is. You go to about 3 kc or so, and start an upward smile. And in my case, I'm running a 2.4 Yaesu 990 2.4. You know, and I know you know what that means, but if you look at your pan adapter, I'm exceeding 2.4, so most of the time up around 3, and what that is I'm exceeding through EQ the roll-off of the radio to keep it at a 2.4. Roger?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so the bandwidth that the transmitter is allowing is 2.4. I'm not sure exactly how you get to cheat on that. Go ahead.
Okay, it's 2.4 on a roll-off curve. That's how they keep it at 2.4. They roll off above 2.4. Well, if you... There's my computer cycling. If your EQ level equals or betters their roll-off, you're going to extend your upper end on up, you know, to a 3.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's not a cutoff, it's a roll-off, guys.
Roger, it's yeah, and so when you put those frequencies back through equalization, then you know, you can come on up and you know, can you see my my pan adapter signal now?
Yeah, Roger. It's very flat.
Roger, and it's rolling off at about 3. Say about a 3.
Yeah, this particular piece of software I have is not particularly good on the audio spectrum display, but I really can't tell you on this particular piece of software. I'd have to bring up a different software.
Oh, Roger. Well, anyway, that's the idea, is to you know, of course, the syllableness is in the top end. That's where the articulation and all that is. And if you're down below 2.4, your top end has a tendency to be not there, not present. And a lot of folks will roll off their bottom end to try to balance it out because they can't get the top end there. Roger?
Yeah, very good. Makes sense. Now, what's the top end of the equalizer? What are the top, say, 2 channels? What frequencies are those?
It depends on the equalizer, but usually 16K, and there's not a, you know, as far as the radio passing that, it doesn't want to, so but I just entice it to through the equalization. So you know, I'm feeding that, but it's not. You know, it's probably not too active past 10, but again, you know, they have a roll-off curve and I have a pre-emphasis curve, and so I'm just trying to imagine what their roll-off curve would be, and I'm sure at 16K they're, you know, they're 40 down, 50 down, 60 down, so my little 20 up is, you know, it's like whatever you do in a bucket, Roger.
Yeah, well, I hope so, because you might be a little wide if you're actually not suppressed up there. Now, the 7300 will allow me to go up to 2900 and then start rolling up.
Roger that. Well, it's you know, you're just dealing with the radio and its limitations, and you want to operate as best you can within the limitations of the radio, you know, and get the best signal that you can through the radio that you have.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess the earlier entry-level radios, like the 718 I had, don't really give you the ability to adjust the roll-off point. So they go for a happy medium, I guess, and since the 7300 has a little more flexibility, it gives you 3 different options with, and you can adjust any of those 3 anywhere between 100 and 2900. But the presets are 2900, I think 2700 and 2500, right?
Roger. Now, I don't know if the band shifted or you were off mic a little bit, but your level did drop down quite a bit. Yeah, usually like on a tri-band EQ, I would just go to the top frequency and increase it by half of its potential. Like if it's a 6, +6, I'll go to +3 on the top. Leave the middle like it is, go down to the bottom, and if it's a -6, I'll do a -3, and then see what it sounds like, you know, and then I can go either way from there. But I do, you know, I have a philosophy about audio in that a guy's Radio Shack is usually not sound studio quality. I mean, some people's Radio Shack is in the corner of their living room, so they have a tendency to have to fight dogs, cats, kids, wives, and chickens, whatever it may be. You know, there's always going to be some kind of background noise that the radio operator is going to have to deal with. So, to nip the thing in the bud there, I suggest tight miking. And tight miking is that you work the mic between 1 inch and 2 inches from it, and use a foam windscreen to take care of any voice transients that might be occurring there. But when you work proximity to the mic like that, you drastically curtail other sounds from getting in there, you know. Your voice is the primary sound, and so that's you know, that's the way it is there, and that's the best way, I think, because you know, with that proximity you do minimize other outside sounds.
Okay, very good. Well, let me try one more thing while I have the expert here. I'm in the last 2 inches.
That has, if I need to start backing things off, if I'm going to be this close to the mic. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I hit my VFO and I didn't have it locked. Hang on just a minute. Hang on just a minute.
Can't tell if you turned it over to me. The band just faded out there. Go ahead. You there, Jim?
Yeah, Roger, I just had a landline. Go ahead.
2KXK.
Yeah, go ahead, Ken. I just had a landline.
Oh, I couldn't tell if that was your landline ringing or mine. Do you need to go get it? Go ahead.
Oh, I got it. It's all right. Go ahead.
Okay, my last question was going to be, or maybe not my last, because you're a spout of fount of knowledge, but I decided to give this a try coming up much closer to the mic. This is about 2 or 3 inches, where I had been about 6 inches. How does this sound, and do you think I need to, if I'm going to stay this close, do I need to back things off? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I would run it just like you were running it. I would run it for right now just like you were running it. Obviously, if you were going to run it just the way you were, you would need to make some adjustments. But I think we've got everything just fine the way it is, and I would work it just like that. And maybe at a later date we might play with it as far as you know, tight miking. Roger.
Okay, very good. So now we're back just 6 inches away that we were, and. Very good. Well, as the last time we spoke, about a week ago, I learned an awful lot today, as I did then, and I'm very thankful to your guidance. Go ahead.
Roger there. Well, yeah, and we do have changing conditions, man. Just about we're in my noise level, so you've dropped almost 20 dB signals, so the conditions are shifting around, Ken. But I will post this in the next 2 or 3 days, and you'll be able to hear the drastic difference that you've made there. So let me jump out for now, and I'll say threes, and you have a real good afternoon. Roger?
Very good, Jim. Well, I can't thank you enough for your patience and your expertise in sharing it with us. What ham radio is all about to me, and you're certainly exemplifying that. Thanks again. We'll look for you again. Obviously, we'll have no trouble hooking up with you between your signal strength and audio. You stand out on the band. KC9VKV, K2KXK will be 4 on your side, 730.
Roger, Roger, Ken. 3 is that away, sir. You have a real good afternoon, and we'll hook up down the road for sure. And I'll be posting the QSO-VLOG here on YouTube in the next few days, probably the next 3 days or so. So 3 is that away, and we'll catch you later. This is Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor.